Join us as career changers, company leaders, industry experts, and others who have been in your shoes share their stories, insights, and lessons learned to help you find enjoyment through employment in the tech world. I'm Nemo Ashong, and this is the Empjoyment Podcast. Hey there, employees. How are you? Nemo Ashong here, and thank you for letting me spend a part of the day with you. Today's episode is with Dr. Allison Poss, who's a great friend of mine and also one of the people who helps me keep moving forward. There's a lot of things that you've seen here in Empjoyment that have come to life because of conversations that I've had with her. She's just such a master of creativity, productivity, and taking action. We get a chance to dive into how she's incorporated that into her lifestyle to help her experience enjoyment as an entrepreneur with a great business around helping girls with ideas and bringing those ideas to life, making them happen. And we also explored some frameworks, some approaches that you can use to A, get more clarity as to what brings you joy in life and work, and B, navigating failures and lessons learned so that you can continue to move forward. It's actually on that last note here that I want to invite you all to experience with me. You know how I like to keep things honest and transparent with all of you employees. And I think that one of the things that has been a challenge for me has been the idea of figuring out everything out in advance and then providing a very consistent experience for each of you employees out there. I think it's why over time you've seen the podcast go from 5 episodes to 3 and then now down to 1. And I want to keep it at 1 right now just to give myself some time to really get to the heart of it all, which is to experiment more and to get into the place of failing and failing in a smart way. I think I mentioned earlier a couple weeks ago about this book that I was reading called Go for No, which I was doing as part of a community experience that I have with the coach, Rich Litvin. And earlier today, I had the insight that a lot of times I personally don't take action, even though I know it's going to bring me more joy and can help bring you all more joy, because I don't, quote unquote, know the right way to go about doing it. I don't, quote unquote, know if it's something that will continue on in longevity. And as such, I spend a lot of time thinking about it. I spend a lot of time dwelling on whether or not it's going to be successful or not. And then eventually I pick a date and I just put it out there and we see. And I bring up the book Go for No because that was N-O in my mind, go for N-O, and having that be the path. But my insight today is that I also should be going for no with the K-N-O-W. And what that means for me is that it's going to be important for me to understand and to get out there and to know. And the only way that I can do that is by putting it out there for you employees and seeing what happens. So my ask of you is to let us have a little bit of fun with how we go about with the Empjoyment podcast, with basically everything we do here at Empjoyment. What I want to commit to, and the one commitment that I want to make sure I keep no matter what, is to consistently exploring new ways to help you find and experience joy in life and work. In fact, when I thought of Empjoyment, I originally thought of it as empowerment, enjoyment, and employment. And I'm going to spend some time playing around with this here because, to be honest, that's where I shine. And if I'm going around talking about bringing our unique strengths and bringing the things that bring us joy to the table, I think that is going to be a really important way to do it. For me, I've found that having different frameworks allows for that to take place best. So what I'll be doing through the rest of this year is just experimenting and having fun. I kind of think of it as a playground within the Empjoyees community. We're going to try a lot of different things, but the consistent part of it, the thing that I am really committed to, is making sure that you all get a great experience that's founded in the values of Empjoyment. We'll be focusing on helping you demonstrate your value. We'll focus on application rather than information. Focus on growth, abundance, gratitude, on working smarter, not harder, on taking unorthodox ways to get to exponential results, doing less and getting more. Yeah, even just talking about this right now, employees, I am smiling. I think you can actually hear that coming through the microphone and through your speakers. And that's going to bring us all a lot of joy. So what I also like to let you know then in this spirit here is that, firstly, if you really want to get involved, go to empjoyment.com and go to empjoyees.com and just join the community. Because for now, at least, I'm just going to be tossing a lot of things out there for us to enjoy and try out. It's all going to be done with the spirit of helping you get forward in your journey, or your journey, I should say. And so no matter when you end up listening to this, I want to make sure you have access to it. We're starting the workshops this week. I'm really excited about it. I'm actually a little bit scared about it too, which is why I think that fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. So we'll go from there. This first workshop, or some of the workshops that you're going to be seeing, are really going to be focused around the top questions that I've been getting with Empjoyment, which is like, how do I figure out what I want to do with life? How do I figure out what I want to do next in my career? And then how do I figure out how to actually get that? We'll talk about how to translate your current skills into the future roles that you want. I went from being an actuary to learning and development at a tech company. There are skills and experiences that I had in my life that made it all come together. We'll have another workshop and session specifically on helping you develop and discover your unique strengths and how you can leverage that going forward. These are all just some of the ideas that I have and some of the things that I want to play around with to help you all get results. And we'll try a couple different things. Some of them will be games. Some of them will be discussions. Some might be guest speakers that we bring in to be able to work with you directly. I don't know. Wow. I'm putting it out there. I don't know. And that to me is the fun part of this all here, because I know that I can have an amazingly fun and successful career going all out to bring you all together and get you all great success. The fun is in not knowing and then going for the no. So I say all this here just to, kind of let you know that if you've been on the fence, if you're waiting and such to get involved, now is the time. The Employees community is going to be the place you want to be. And you can go to employees.com to join the community and get updates on what's happening next. You can also go to empjoyment.com/workshops, or just go to the site. You'll be able to see some of our upcoming events that are taking place. Like I said, I want to be able to play around with a lot of different things. So we'll have events like Ask Me Anythings or just hangouts where we get to meet other people in the community. I mean, as you can see, just in the last few minutes here, I've just tossed out like a whole bunch of different things that I like to be able to do with each of you. Yeah. And the thought of it is just bringing me great joy. And I think through that, you all are going to experience great joy as well. We'll keep the podcast going, but I just think that like we're going to up the level a little bit. We're going from this information here to more application. And that's where I want to be focusing my time. You're going to see me heavily invested in those types of experiences there. And you're going to have the opportunity to interact with me and other employees, other inspiring people who are motivated and taking action right now toward what they're doing and believe that it's possible for them. And as such, it's also possible for you. One of the great things that I get to do is help people live into the lives that they feel they were meant to live. And then I help them see that there is even more possible for them. And then we walk toward that as well. If that sounds like fun for you, come over to employees.com, go to the Empjoyment website, sign up for the mailing list, and sign up for your first workshop. And let's get together, let's discuss, and let's make things happen. Boom. And I want to thank Allison once again. I feel that the conversation that we had here, the one that you're going to listen to right now, is what opened the door for a lot of this here. Going from ideas and making things happen and stepping fully into what brings us joy and the unique strengths that we have. I'm excited to see what insights you get from this, and I can't wait to talk to you about it over in the Empjoyment community. But first, here's a listen to a conversation with Dr. Allison Poss. Enjoy. Hey there, Employees. Nemo Ashong here, and welcome to the Empjoyment podcast, where we're focused on helping people just like you experience enjoyment through employment. It is a wonderful day because we have Dr. Allison Poss on the show to share her journey to finding employment. Allison, it is absolutely wonderful to have you here. Would you like to say a quick hello to employees out there?
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here. And, I want employees to get a chance to get to know you. So let me let them know about you professionally, and then maybe you can share a little bit afterwards about you personally. So Dr. Allison Poss graduated from Creighton University with a doctorate in interdisciplinary leadership studies in 2014. She is also a licensed school psychologist and has a master's and educational specialist degree in psychology from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Allison started her career working as a school psychologist in public schools before making the switch to entrepreneurship and running her business, Girls with Ideas, Inc. Girls with Ideas teaches middle school girls how to be creative, confident leaders through a curriculum that empowers girls to think up an idea and make it happen. Woo! Allison, This is great. I'm giving employees a chance to get to know you from this side of things. Would you mind letting us know a little bit more about you and your life, love, work, and passion?
Yes, so I run Girls with Ideas full time. I'm the founder and CEO. So when I am not doing that, I'm somebody who really enjoys taking in information. So I'm a very avid reader. I try to read at least a book a week. I love doing yoga. And I call myself a cool hunter, which means I love just looking for products, places, things that are cool and new. So I spend a lot of time doing that.
So I love this cool hunter. It's leaving some images in my mind. Can you share with us maybe on the down low here, one of the latest things that you found to have been cool or that has at least piqued your interest recently?
Well, I've been really into looking at communities. So I recently moved, and in entrepreneurship, I found that community is really important. So I found a lot of cool communities in my local area. One of them that's specifically for women is Label League, and they put on events for women in business, but they also have a ton of resources on their website. So that's one of the things they aren't new, but they've recently grown a lot and have a lot of new events that I've been enjoying.
Awesome. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. I'm happy that you've been able to get connected into community. I'm big on community myself, so I also think that's cool. And why don't we can kind of create some coolness with this episode here and this conversation as we go along. Yeah. All right, cool. So I like to start off the conversation just getting an idea as to your view of the world, like some kind of quotes, mantra, some kind of success motto that you've used to kind of shape where you look at enjoyment and what you look at as success. So would you mind sharing with us just a little something here to help us frame the conversation?
Sure. Something that I've been thinking about a lot since making the leap from a job to running my own business is every morning you have two choices. You can continue to sleep on your dreams or wake up and chase them. And so that's a quote that helps me frame my own day of working to chase my dreams and following the motivation for why I took this different direction with my career.
That is so much fun. I love this here. It just speaks so much to just getting up and taking action that first part of the day. Can you let me know an opportunity where you've been able to put this quote into action for you recently?
I truly think about it every day because as an entrepreneur, you build your own schedule. So literally getting up in the morning out of bed, if I'm tired, I can think no, I want to get up and chase my dream today. So it really is the way that I start my day.
Awesome. Well, it'd be really great now to see how you started your experience here. And we talk a lot about enjoyment here. And I'll say, experience and enjoyment through employment. And what I want to try and do is find a way to make that a little bit more concrete, because what I've found through the various conversations that I've had is that enjoyment looks a little bit different for everyone. And you're speaking right now as an entrepreneur, someone who wakes up every day and, chases these things, So can you spend a little bit of time telling me how you feel about enjoyment and what that means to you?
Yeah. So for me, my main motivation for becoming an entrepreneur was to try to find enjoyment in the work that I do. I had a job that I was really good at, that I went to school for 8 years and got 3 degrees to pursue. And despite being good at it, being passionate about a lot of the causes and working so hard to be qualified to do it, I would come home every day and either cry, be stressed, or fall asleep right away. And I just thought that I'm too young to have this be the rest of my life. The joy wasn't there for a lot of reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I thought, well, what else can I do? And what if I could design my day and design how I would find joy? What would that look like? And I tried hard to do that within my current role and job, but because of limitations with the workplace and with certain laws, I couldn't figure out how to make it happen. So I decided to try to do it myself.
Well, look at that there. So you ended up making this swap here to find that joy. Would you mind letting me know then? You said that you got to create your day every day and you got to make your own hours and such. What would a day that you're I'm at a good place with enjoyment right now? What would that kind of a day look like for you?
I'm big on morning routines. So Like the perfect enjoyment day would be getting up, being able to eat my breakfast. I have a very ritual with my breakfast, sitting down and eating with my dog, going to do yoga and getting mentally set for the day. And then I'm big on productivity. And so I'm a big advocate of the productivity planner. So I start with my productivity planner that helps me plan what tasks would be most meaningful for me to complete that day, which helps me kind of figure out what would be the best day for that day, given what I have going on. And for me, being able to work, I go to a co-working space. So I love days where I'm able to spend my day at a co-working space among other creatives and entrepreneurs, because that's really inspirational to me, being able to collaborate with them. And then just knowing at the end of the day that whatever I did, and I look at my productivity planner, those tasks help me move forward the mission of my business, is the best feeling. So a simple day where I'm able to work towards my mission in my routine is really where I thrive and find a lot of joy.
Oh, that's really fun. So, Allison, you had mentioned earlier that you'd gotten 3 degrees. You put in a lot of time and effort toward a specific path here. And I'd love to just get a little bit more of an understanding as to what that path was. And one of the things that came up, and I think the reason why I want to explore this here, is that you're like, it was in the realm of my passion, it was related to my purpose, and yet it still didn't bring you the level of enjoyment that you were looking for, So maybe we can spend a little bit of time here just trying to get a deeper understanding as to what was happening at that time and really where you were and indications that a change was necessary.
Sure. So I heard about the profession of school psychology in high school, and I just decided that's what I'll be. And I never really thought twice about it. So I went to undergrad and then 2 more graduate degrees to be a school psychologist, and was solely focused on that goal. I knew that I love psychology. I love the research of studying why people say and think and do different things. And that's something that's a very big passion of mine. I also thought, well, I love kids, so it makes sense to be a child psychologist and work in schools where you can reach the most people. And I never questioned that decision, or even took different classes in college to see if it was something else I wanted to do. And then it was one of those things where 8 years later, I was actually practicing to be a school psychologist. And it was a lot different than what the book said, And while I liked working with kids, and a lot of what a school psychologist does is actually assessment and diagnosis, and I love problem solving. And so I always thought to myself, well, I love, helping figure out why a student is struggling. That's something that I love. But the day-to-day, I realized that I really don't fit into the culture of a lot of schools. Schools tend to be really slow to change, slow to innovation, depending on who your leadership is. But it's pretty hard to make a significant change in a school because of all of the stakeholders reasonably. And that was something personally for me that was really hard to be a part of, because I want to do everything that's innovative, and I want to try out new ideas, and I want people, working on the latest trends. And that's really hard to do in a school setting, no matter who your leadership is. And I understand that, but it took me experiencing that to understand that about myself. And I think you don't know about yourself until you try a few things. And so practicing, I just really started to figure out what I needed. And one of the things was that ability to be innovative and creative. The other thing was, when you study something and become an expert in something, just in books or in school, and then you actually do it, there's always a discrepancy. But I just wasn't really as passionate about the work. So my colleagues would spend their weekends reading books about how to help kids with ADHD or the newest autism research. But I wasn't. I was over that. In my spare time, I was reading about creativity and, going to all these different workshops about how to help people be innovative. And so kind of seeing that difference in pattern made me realize, what am I actually interested in? It doesn't seem to be the thing I'm doing every day. And so just having that time to really explore my own patterns of behaviors helped me realize that those specific things that I was doing every day wasn't what I was actually wanting to read about and wanting to devote my life to in the same way.
See, there's so much about this here that resonates with me as you're saying it. There's just like small pieces where I'm like, yes. That aspect of investing a lot of time into a specific track and then being able to see it kind of bear out over time. And when you're actually practicing it, being like, it has the elements, but it's not the thing. And, my background was as an actuary. I took 6 years of actuarial exams. I've spent time sitting alone in a room working on just trying to get my credentials. I actually think it's one of the reasons why I've been successful as an entrepreneur, though, because I know how to just be alone and get things done. Sure. But that application at some point was just didn't fulfill from that full perspective. And as you were discussing there, I was like, oh, you're cool, Hunter. Wanted a place to be like, hey, I found these things. Let me bring them into the mix. And you just weren't in an environment there, like structurally, that really allowed itself to play out. So you spent some time here kind of talking, and I appreciate this, around how you started figuring out that this wasn't the right move for you and what you might want from there. Some things that you had mentioned was that, just by taking the action, by practicing it, you realized the differences that went from the theory to the actual application. So actually having that experience. And then you also took a note at what you were doing in your spare time. Like, these are the workshops I'm going to. This is when I look around, everyone else is going off and they're diving even deeper, and you're finding some other aspects there. So I just wanted to pull that out a little bit for employees, because a lot of times people will say, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what my purpose is. And it seems that you were able to find something from this. So if you had to give a takeaway that can help employees who know something's off, but they're not necessarily sure what the next move should be for them, would you mind just giving us your thoughts on a takeaway that they can use to implement?
And I would say that I didn't know it at the time. For me, it's been this puzzle that I've been putting together of different aspects of my life that have led me to figure out what I should be doing. So I actually just went to a reading from the author David Sedaris last night. And he was talking about how he keeps a diary just of what he does every day and how that's helped him figure out what he's interested in. And that was a huge takeaway for me, because he's like, whatever you document that day is important to you. And by being able to see your pattern of behavior, you can kind of look through and see well, what did I write about that day? What was important to me? And I think the same thing can be done for finding joy, recording what was fun for you or what did make you feel happy that day. Because as a psychologist, I know that feelings are really subjective, and it's hard for me to even say what brings me joy. But if I can look at a pattern of behaviors, it's much easier for me to say oh, doing these things must make me happy. And then you can reflect and be like, yeah, it does make me happy. So that would be something that I'll share from what he said last night. And also something that I've done too, just trying to say well, what do? I volunteer. A huge part of my life and how I'm connected to Nemo is I volunteer for a youth leadership organization, and I wasn't doing any of that professionally. So I must be interested in leadership. And I must be interested in working with, that age of students. And I must be interested in event planning if I spend so much of my time doing that for free. Just as another example of what you do in your spare time and how to make that part of your day job.
Wow. When you say this here, it makes me think of my experience as well. And I think employees, please, take something from this here. Take account of what you're doing. For me, when I was at Deloitte, I was involved in a lot of learning and development, a lot of recruiting, and I was getting a lot of really positive feedback around wow, you're really good at this stuff here. We're so happy about the contributions you're making there. We'd love for you to be more of an actuary. I feel I'm this is why not? If I'm getting all this positive feedback, why not just do more of that?
Yeah.
One of the challenges was all of the investment that I had already made in taking those exams here, right? And I think you've made even more here with 8 years of working toward a degree, and you're finally in the role, and it's not what you're expecting it to be. What I want to ask you is, how did you have the courage? How did you have the confidence to make some kind of change? yeah, how did that come about? How did you muster up that courage there?
I would say I'm still struggling with it because your profession is so much of your identity. If I'm out at a party or even at a networking event and somebody asks me what I do, I still say, oh, I'm a psychologist, because it's just like, it's so much part of your identity and it's hard to let go. But one of the things that was really impactful for me was actually a podcast I listened to years ago on Freakonomics, and it was on quitting. And it was weighing like, how can you weigh the opportunity cost of quitting and how quitting is good in some cases? Because I've always seen myself as somebody who's a go-getter. You know, not only am I going to get the degree, but I'm going to get all A's and have the best research project and get published. You know, I was always so into everything that quitting was like, seemed awful to give up on anything. But the message of this was, well, at the time I was only in my late 20s, you know, I have my whole life ahead of me. So if I quit now and actually pursued something that I was even more passionate about, what could that give me? And so it really came down to almost a logical decision of, well, I kind of, from an opportunity cost standpoint, I can quit and it can be okay. And also, I can always get a job. Like, I can try something new. I can always go be a school psychologist somewhere because I've done the work. And so it wasn't like I had to give it up forever. And so that mindset is still with me. Like, I can try different things. I don't have to just have one career or one profession define me. I can always go back to it. And I think that was really helpful of a mindset, saying, well, if I'm not happy, let's try to be happy. And if it doesn't work, I can always just get a job.
So you just said something here that, if you're okay, I would love to create the space to just walk through. You open the door here, right? And you said, like, you know, not have one career define you. And you also said that, like, when people ask you what you do, you still go back to, you know, saying you're a psychologist. So let me ask you, in this space between us here and employees, like, what would you ultimately love to be able to tell people if you didn't have to explain yourself, if you didn't have to like, you know, be anything other than who you actually are? You know, what would you love to tell people about what you do or who you are?
Right now, I'm working on saying I'm an entrepreneur, because I have been the last 2 years. And so I would just love to say, yeah, I created something that's out there in the world, and that's what I do with my days and how I make my money. And I think part of the reason that I feel the need to identify with a profession is to be credible. So in a space where you're making a change, I felt, you know, my degrees are proof that I'm competent and capable. But when you transition to a new career of any kind, you're like the freshman all over again. You know, like you were the cool senior. And so I think by putting a label behind it, it helps provide me confidence that I don't have yet, you know. And that's part of the tough things about making a change. Even though you feel more joy and are excited, you still want other people to trust you and feel like you're a professional who can do their job.
Yeah, I think, Allison, we're gonna dive into Girls with Ideas and how you made that. But like, since this window is open, I'm gonna take this as a window of opportunity, because, you know, quite frankly, I personally have felt the same thing. And when I talk to employees, when I coach them and through the community, this comes up a lot. You know, the aspect of credibility, the aspect of trust, and in the sense of a bit of this is not what you're saying, but I'm going to add it to the mix here just from conversations. External validation. You know, how will I know when I'm ready? How will I know, like, how can I be accepted there? What I would love to do is invite us both here for this conversation to be fully who we are. Right? You said, you're like, one of the things that's interesting, you're like, I feel like a freshman again. And I'm like, but at the same time, you're like, I've been doing this entrepreneurship career for at least 2 years. And that's like the official parts of it come into life there. Not all the other endeavors that you've done in your spare time to make you up here. I feel like in a lot of ways, you're more of an entrepreneur than a lot of people who call themselves that.
Sure.
You know, so I'm also going to step into that as well. For me, like, all right, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. There's a lot of great things that I do, and I help people explore the things that make them unique, that allows them to bring their unique talents to the world so that they can enjoy more of what they do in life and work. And I'm okay with that. In fact, not only am I okay with that, like I need to bring that to the table because that's the value that I bring out to the world. So for the rest of the conversation, who are you showing up as? And we'll go from there into a bit more about Girls with Ideas.
Sure. So I am the founder and CEO of Girls with Ideas, and we help middle school girls become creative, confident leaders.
Ooh, now I am even more pumped. So tell us more about this year. So creative, confident leaders from helping middle school girls get to that point. Tell us more about Girls with Ideas overall.
So what the business is we have a curriculum that we sell to nonprofits that work with girls, schools, counselors, psychologists that helps girls think up an idea and make it happen. So in the realm of education, there's a category that they call social skills. So some of the skills that aren't in the curriculum, like math and English, but are necessary to just what I say being a good human. That was really one of the things that I was super interested in my practice. And they have curriculums out there for that. And so I would lead some groups of social skills, but I thought a lot of them were outdated. And I thought a lot about the skills that I would actually want our future citizens to have in order to be our next leaders and workforce. And so I was really interested in how I can help kids become those next leaders. And I felt that one of the skills schools are lacking teaching is creative thinking. So that's what I set off to study and devote my work to.
That's fantastic. And I'm thinking here, you had mentioned that you were finding yourself at creativity workshops and yes. You're like, oh, why? Like you found a way to bring it all into the mix there.
Yeah, that's why I reference it's kind of been a puzzle. Like for my dissertation, I actually studied creativity in the workplace. I went and interviewed different leaders and the people that work for them and asked how leaders can influence or hinder creative thought. I kind of thought I'd go into working with businesses, but I still had this passion for kids. So I had this research about creative thinking that I had been doing a lot of with adults, but then I was working in schools at the same time because when I recognized that it wasn't the right job fit for me, I went back and got my doctorate in leadership while I was practicing, still in schools to educate myself. So it's kind of pieces of that. And then knowing that I spent so much of my time volunteering for this leadership organization, I must be drawn to that in some way. And how do all of these things tie together? I didn't think about it that way and put it together, but reflecting on it, you can see how the different parts of my life really led me to this thing that I've been working on, which is cool.
Yeah, it really feels like you're on a journey. And I say on a journey because like, at least what I'm getting from you, Allison, is that you're still so open to how things continue to evolve, how things continue to go. And you're like, right now, this is what makes sense. And it's more of a fit than what it was before. And I'm going to continue to find that. Like where the right fit is. Am I getting that right there?
Absolutely. And it's also taken me a while to be that open too, because I've just realized that you have to be in order to really find what brings you joy,
Yeah.
Experience things and try new things, see how they work and see how the business evolves. It's the one lesson, the biggest lesson I think I've learned in entrepreneurship is to be open with your ideas and feedback and where the market goes. So
That's really fun. And what's coming to mind here is if there was, how do I say it? If there was a one tactical way that like employees could just be open, for someone who wants to be open, but they're like, I don't really know how to do it. I'm not really an open person, without going into a full process of it all. Like, is there one thing you might recommend that employees try if they want to be more open?
I think something is asking for feedback. That's a big thing in the entrepreneurship world. In the world that I came from, academia, which it's changing, but there was always kind of one right answer or an expected set of answers. And so asking for feedback was really, am I right or wrong? But in being open, it's asking for like, what would you do? Or what would you suggest? And getting other people's ideas and feedback for my work has allowed me to be more open. Because at first it kind of can hurt your feelings or you feel like you're doing something wrong if something, somebody provides you feedback that you don't want, but being able to not only ask for it, but take it with an open heart and, and think about it has really helped me be more open.
That's really fun. So like with the aspect of like that open heart here and being willing to have these different types of experiences, I love to spend a little bit more time understanding some of the places where, you know, you had some challenge and maybe you needed to have that open heart there. So clearly you're successful. Like you're the founder and CEO with Girls with Ideas, and you help middle school girls take their, I want to make sure I'm getting this right, but take their dreams and make them happen. Right? Take their ideas and make it happen. So with that there, like to me, it feels like Allison, tons of success, you know, but I'm sure there are some roadblocks that you've come across the way. I love to really go to an aspect where you faced a failure, where something just didn't work out, and then understand more about the steps that you took to overcome it.
Yeah, I think I fail all the time every day. And that's a concept in creativity, that failure is part of the creative process. And so it's hard to even pinpoint like one failure, because I'm very aware that I always try new things and a lot of them fail, whether it's like a marketing strategy or a new idea for a product. But one of the biggest, I guess, failures or setback that I had was I quit my job, and then I didn't start Girls with Ideas right away. Girls with Ideas was kind of a fun thing that I was doing. So when I quit my job, I actually had started another business with my father that I went through the whole entrepreneurship process with. And we had a lot of requests for businesses to come and have me talk about my creativity research. So we were doing kind of workshops, consulting type of work. And when I quit my job, I got a large contract from an organization that had me do trainings. And I was like, I'm set. This is awesome. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm doing my own thing. And this organization that had been around for 27 years lost their grant funding. So 3 months after I quit my job, and they were kind of like my biggest thing and all I focused on, I suddenly lost all the work that I had planned on having. And it was a failure on my part because I didn't really work on my business. I was just kind of doing what they told me to do because they had paid me to do it. I wasn't thinking about my ideal client. I wasn't thinking about where I really wanted to grow. It was just new and exciting, but I didn't have any other like backup plans. And so that's really when I thought about it, as I was kind of doing my own work, everybody was asking me about Girls with Ideas, this fun little project. And losing that and having to figure out, oh, what do? I just told everybody I'm starting this business and it already feels like it's failing. I made this huge Facebook post announcing I was quitting my job, doing this, and it just felt like a failure, even though I hadn't even been working on it that long. And so one of the lessons from that I learned is, in all of this, I can't rely on promises or other people. I have to put in the work myself. Like, you can't cheat the sweat equity that goes into building your business. I was like, yeah, I got, these people are going to give me all this work. And so that was kind of the first of many lessons about how I need to put in the work myself and not rely on just one person or one organization. But in doing that, it really led me to really figuring out what I wanted to do and having the courage to be like, okay, I tried that. And it's okay that I told everybody that I tried it, but my heart is really here. So we're going to go here for now.
Yeah. Allison, do you mind if I just take just a time to just let that sink in real quick?
Sure.
Employees, I think like there's something really powerful about what Allison just shared here. And for each of us, it's gonna mean something different, right? We just want to just invite a little bit of space for you to think about that, what she just said there. One of the things that really resonated with me was you have to put in the work yourself. And it seems, Allison, that you keep putting yourself in a place where you learn a lot. You are an avid learner, but it's really wonderful because I feel like you're also an active implementer. You're like, all right, I learned a lot of these creativity workshops, and now I'm going to get a large contract to put this into play, or like I got the degree and now I'm experiencing and I'm practicing, what all this here in life. And I think there are a lot of different things that employees you can take out from there. So I want to just create a little bit of space about that. what's coming to mind is that you put your stake in the ground. You made that Facebook post. You quit your job. Like you like everyone knows that Allison's on this path here. And I would love to just spend a little bit of time just kind of looking at it and saying, like, all right, like when things didn't work out as you thought they were going to work out, what is one thing that you would tell your past self who was like right there at that crossroads, knowing what you know right now? What is one thing you would tell your past self to help make that period of time a little bit easier for them?
Reflecting on it, I think I was very worried about what people thought of me or thought of like my abilities. But really, in reality, everybody was cheering me on. So like, I would have just reminded myself, like, everybody just wants you to do what you want to do and they're cheering you on. I shouldn't have been so. One of the reasons why I think failure is hard to think about is because we think about what other people think about us when we fail, or we're worried about how the failure reflects on us professionally. And so, but in reality, everybody was just cheering me on.
It's interesting, Allison, because in having these conversations, sometimes I hear some things that I need to hear. And and I am gonna take some time to thank you for that right there, because there's something about making a commitment and going out on your own where you feel like you actually are out on your own. And from what I'm hearing from you, it's the absolute opposite. Regardless of what happens, people are still in your corner and they still want to see you be successful.
Yeah, you're on your own doing the work, but you have people there to support you that can help you, but you're the one. You have to put in the sweat equity for your vision, but people are there to really help you with it. And that was something that, I did not realize right away.
Oh, that's so spectacular. And I have to ask you this here because it seems, and actually it's beyond seems, I know one of the reasons why I enjoy talking to you is that you are a champion when it comes to experimentation and finding out things in the midst of failure, or finding out things in the midst of being wrong. And I'd love if you wouldn't mind just if you can speak to any part of that in terms of what you found throughout your journey here to help employees that might want to embrace failure more, or failing faster, or experimenting, or any of those things. Like, you are a master at this here, and and it's really cool because you always, it just moves you forward. So, is there anything you would share, any thoughts or takeaways you would give to employees out there on this?
Well, one of the quotes or lessons that's shared a lot is from Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx. And she shares about how when she was younger, her father used to go around the dinner table and ask all the kids, what was one thing you failed at today? Along with what was one of the highlights of your day. And she credits that to her success because it normalized failure for her and allowed her to reflect on it. And I think that being able to actually ask yourself that and reflect on it is super helpful in normalizing failure. So when it becomes something that you frame as, oh, that's one way that it didn't work, instead of I failed, like I ruled something out. Maybe not necessarily that I failed, but I ruled something out and I learned something from it. Just changing that mindset is super helpful when it comes to work. But also that's a foundation of creative thinking. In order to have a good idea, you have to have lots of ideas. And a lot of those ideas are going to be bad. But it gets you to the good one.
Yeah, that's spectacular there. Oh, there's so many places I want to go with this here, but I think where I'm really feeling right now is that there's been so many things that you've done. And I love to like kind of move from this aspect of things that didn't work for you to a point where you just felt extreme joy, where you really felt like, yes, I am fully in my enjoyment. This is such a proud moment I never want to ever forget. Would you mind taking us to that time, letting us know what was happening around you, what the situation was, what was going on, and just sharing with us the steps that led to your success? We'd love to enjoy it with you.
So one of the things I did early on thinking about Girls with Ideas as a business, it was something that I did in practice that a lot of people asked me about, like, can I buy that? Can you come here? That was kind of, I don't know, maybe this is more of a business. And as somebody who really wanted feedback, I entered a lot of pitch competitions or showcases as an entrepreneur, where you share your idea for feedback. And so early on, I entered and I made the top 6, which meant that I got to pitch on stage in front of these judges, Shark Tank style. It was pretty much exactly like Shark Tank. You had to craft this pitch, and it was in front of a few hundred people, and you got money for it. And I was the second to last pitch to go, and I had just practiced and worked really hard. And being on stage and being able to share my mission and giving my last line and having the crowd cheer for me was one of the highlights. Even though I came in last place in the competition, by the way, I didn't even I came in 6 out of 6. It was just such a great feeling to share something that was from my brain to people and have them cheer and support me. And having the courage to even get up and say that was what I was working on, that I think was a big part of that. But that was definitely a highlight of this journey so far.
Woohoo is all that's going on in my mind. I'm seeing celebrations. Congratulations on that. And it's not easy to put yourself out there in such a meaningful way. Allison, we spent some time here going through your journey, and what I want to do is create some space to talk a little bit about Girls with Ideas. And I'm hearing you say this last story, and what comes to mind is that you as an adult got a chance to go out there and put your creative idea out there for someone, and regardless of the placement, that was no longer the contest that you were in,
Yeah.
And so in that way, it ended up being such a proud moment for you. And what got to me was that I'm wait a minute. So Allison, you get the opportunity to create these types of these opportunities for girls now earlier in their life so that they can experience something like this and build that confidence and build that creativity out there. So would you mind sharing with us maybe a little bit about how Girls with Ideas works in practice, and maybe a story that resonates and shows the impact of being able to get your idea out there as a young girl?
Sure. I always say I started this because I am a girl with an idea. I have lots of ideas. So the name really fits. But so what our curriculum does is it has girls look for problems and opportunities in their community. And so when I was working as a school psychologist in schools, a lot of times adults would sit and talk about how to solve problems for kids. So one of the problems when I was working was that girls were being mean to each other, bullying each other, and it was affecting school culture. And so I suggested, why don't we have the girls try to solve these problems instead of us? But there was nothing out there that really helped that. And so the very first Girls with Ideas group was me getting together a group of girls at that school and saying, hey, how would you solve these problems? What ideas do you have? And the reason that I worked with just girls is because there was already 3 programs for just boys at the school. So it was a little bit in protest and a little bit because of what I knew about the gender leadership gap and all of that work. But so it started as me working with this group of girls, and they had so many ideas that really impacted the school. And so going through the process with that allowed me to think, how can I replicate this for other people? So an example of what they did for their school is they said that we have really low reading scores at our school. So we think that kids like to read outdoors because it makes reading more fun. But in our neighborhood, there's no safe place to read outdoors. So we want to make a reading garden where we can give books to kids for free and they can read more because it'll be fun to read outside. And we think that that will help reading scores. So awesome. So we made a plan. They raised money. They got a free little library. They raised over $2,000 in different ways. They sold t-shirts. They asked for donations from local businesses. And they took a part of their school. They put benches up and lights up, and they painted the rocks all crazy to make it appealing to kids. And they made this little reading garden at their school. These girls who weren't really engaged before, some who were, quote, troublemakers, were suddenly invested in the school and wanting to make a difference. And we're really excited that somebody just listened to them and their idea. And so that first little case study is always what I go back to, because that's what we're trying to replicate across all of the communities that are using our program right now.
Goosebumps. That's like, I have little good, but that is fantastic there. And I'm so happy you're able to create that space. It seems like you are one of the first and only people who gave them who just actually listened and really helped them, like you said, make it happen. It's like, great, this is a great idea. Let's make it happen. And some of the things that I love about this is like, it wasn't necessarily easy. They had to go out there, they had to fundraise, they had to do all these things. But what came with it was not only just the outcome of the garden exist or how did reading go, but each of those people now felt a stronger investment in what they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allison, this is great work that you're doing out there, and I'm really happy that you have Girls Without Ideas. We've talked a little bit here about things that you've done in the past. I'd love to take a look at right now at where you are currently and some of the things that excites you looking ahead for you and with Girls and Ideas in general.
So we have right now a full curriculum that's 20 lessons. It can take a long time. So I'm really excited because we've been developing smaller lessons that are just digital downloads that educators could use if they have 45 minutes or an hour with their girls. And so we've been hard at work, and those will be launching this week. And I'm really excited about some new lessons that we're developing around girls in STEM education and STEM interest. So I'm always excited to write new things, come up with new ideas, but those new products we as a team are super excited about.
That's really exciting. And I think as I'm hearing this here, one of the things that really resonates with me is I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. No matter what, like it's going to have like the new things. It's going to be like innovative, and it's going to be what's working right now to get even better results than you can typically get in environments without this here. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for people being able to digest the curriculum in different ways. So just really looking forward to the success that comes from that, not just for you and Girls with Ideas and your whole team, but for each of those individual girls and the people that benefit as a result of these girls bringing their ideas to life.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and wrap things up here. And the way that I like to end things is just kind of giving us an opportunity to act on something. Right? Because at Enjoyment, like there's a lot of information out there. And one of the things that we as a community pride ourselves in is our decisions to actually build the experience and actually take action. So for you, Allison, for any employee that is feeling motivated right now, maybe they're feeling more creative than they've been in the past. Maybe they're like, you know what, I'm ready to do something with this here. What would be your suggested plan of action for them to take over the next 7 days to help them make their ideas and make that happen?
When I wrote one of my dissertations, it can be really overwhelming to write like a whole book on your research. And so a lot of people say to just take 15 minutes a day and write, and that will help you get started. And then you find yourself writing more. And I used that lesson when I was trying to figure out what I wanted. It seemed really overwhelming to figure it all out and to do all that reflection. And so just take 15 minutes a day to write down the things that you find joy in or the things that you're experiencing and reflect on that. If you do that for 7 days, I think that that's a very helpful way to break up the overwhelming task of thinking about joy in your life.
Yes. Listen, I love it. All right. Joy is nice and simple. 15 minutes a day to reflect back on this here and to start seeing what comes to life. So, Allison, we'd love to find out how you'd like us to be able to stay in touch with you. And then if there's one thing that you would give to us employees as an overall takeaway that you would love for us to put into action, what would that be?
So the way to find us is girlswithideas.com. You can go there. You can sign up for a newsletter. We also have a free leadership quiz for girls, but adults love it just as much. You can take for fun. And an overall action or lesson, I would say, is to just try. And if you fail, it's okay.
There we go. Allison, I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time here to share your experience, your journey with all of us employees. I appreciate you being so open, honest, and really just willing to put it all out there. I'm so happy that you showed up as you are, because you are fantastic. And by you bringing your strengths and your unique gifts to the world, we all have the opportunity of being a little bit better today. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you, Nemo.
Absolutely. Here is to doing the things that bring you joy each and every day. Take care.
Bye.
Employees. What did I tell you? Great insight all around. If you could right now, I would even recommend just pausing this episode right now as it is and taking 2 minutes to think about what is your greatest takeaway? What is the thing that you want to make sure that you put into action for yourself based on this? There were so many great insights. And let's just keep it simple. I love to just hear your thoughts about this particular episode over in the Employees community over at employees.com. Use the hashtag Joiny37 and let us know what your thoughts were. Let us know some of your insights. We'll just have a discussion. And I don't care when you listen to this episode. If there's something that was important to you, come out there, put in that hashtag, let us know, and then click on that link afterwards and see what other people have said and engage in that conversation because quite frankly, we're lucky. We're timeless right now. That's the power of community. That's the power of what we're building together. Come and share with us your greatest insight, and we'll talk to you from there. I'll see you in the Employees community, and I'll see you at one of the upcoming workshops so you can help get some clarity and start applying all the things that you already know so that you can live the life you feel you were meant to live. Here is to doing the things that bring you joy each and every day. Take care, Employees.